The Catharsis mask is one of those exotics that it's been in the game for quite a while, but I have not used it before. Now I heard this is a great mask to use on PvP because of the damage you can get by taking damage, and also the healing that you can get once the talent of the mask activates. So that's a great perk for PvP, but what about PvE? So what I did, I put this Catharsis mask on test and throw it on a build and went through legendary mission, capital building. As a fact, it was my record when I used this build to go through that legendary. It was my personal record so far. But yeah, that's just a fun fact. And this build actually does do a good amount of damage for the way I have it set up. Now, I don't know how I feel about the survivability. I wouldn't say it's a face tank type of gear piece, but it does do well by keeping me alive if I play smart enough once that healing pop off, and also that damage will help you out to kill the NPCs fast. So I'm gonna break down this build now for you, but if you guys enjoyed this video, a like on it would be super appreciated. Subscribe for more Division 2 content. Let's get into this. Okay, so let's start off with the start of the show, the reason why I'm making this video, the Catharsis exotic mask. So it comes with a core attribute armor, and the attribute on it is incoming repair and armor regen. Now I have it all the way maxed out, and then on the mod I have a 6% crit chance on it. So let's talk about what makes this mask so special, which is the exotic talent, which is a vicious cycle. Taking damage will build up a stack to a cap of 30. Now each stack will grant you 1% weapon damage, so you can get up to 30% weapon damage up to that 30 stack. Now the thing is, taking damage at the max stacks trigger a purge, removing all stacks, all status effect, and then dropping a healing cloud which restores 5% of max armor for 10 seconds to you and all allies in the cloud. So with that said, this is an exotic that on the best way of being used is by taking damage from your enemy, because by taking damage you will activate what the mask's supposed to do. And with that said, I feel like this is a mask that goes better with a tank build instead of a full DPS or full red build, because to activate it again you need to take damage from the enemies. So with that said, we put it on this build right here. We have a striker build where we're gonna be using the chest piece and also the backpack. Now, as we all know, by equipping 2 pieces of striker we gain 15% weapon handling, and for new players on the game, weapon handling basically means reload speed, accuracy, stability, and weapon swap speed. All of those are included inside of that weapon handling. By equipping 3 pieces of the striker gear set, you gain 15% rate of fire, and the 4th piece of the striker gear set on your build gives you the striker gamble, which is where all of this damage is coming from, because weapon hits increase total weapon damage by 0.65%, stacking up to 100 times. So you hit your enemies, you gain damage up to 100 stacks. Now if you equip the chest piece and the backpack, you get extra talent. So for the backpack we gain the risk management talent, which increased that weapon damage gained per stack from 0.65% to 1%. So instead of 65%, now we're gonna get 100% weapon damage. But that's not enough. So by equipping the chest piece, you gain the second talent, which is called the press advantage. So increase the max stacks from the striker gamble from 100 to 200 stacks. So which means with the backpack and the chest piece, we have up to 200% weapon damage from the striker to our build. So for each piece of the striker that we have on this build, starting off with the chest piece, we have core attribute armor, attribute crit damage with a mod crit chance. On the backpack we kept it with the core attribute weapon damage and attribute crit damage with a mod of crit damage. Now in here I'm thinking about changing that weapon damage to armor just to make this build more tankier, but so far it's working really well just like that. On the gloves we have a core attribute armor with the attribute critical hit damage. And last but not least, on the knee pads we have a core weapon damage and attribute critical hit damage. Now for the last piece of this build we have a holster that comes from the Cheska, and this gives us a 10% crit chance by equipping one of them. The core attribute in here we have core armor and the attribute crit damage and crit chance. Now again we have 1.5 million armor in here, and that's coming from 4 of core attributes armor, but I feel like I couldn't put more armor on this build and still do a good amount of damage but be more tankier. So I might try that, but so far this build where I have it set up right now, it's doing perfect, and I went through the legendary capital building with this build and I was just fine. So moving for the weapons, I have as a main weapon an assault rifle, and I have the famous St. Elmo's engine. Now you could go with anything else in here, I just feel like St. Elmo's engine is my favorite AR currently. You could go also with the Ouroboros and you should be just fine. So for the St. Elmo's engine, you guys know you should have the third attribute in there, damage target out of cover. That's the best to have on this weapon. And then for the secondary I have the Vector SBR 9mm. This is basically closest thing that you can get as the Ouroboros, but not exotic, and it has extra rounds on the magazine, 53 rounds on the magazine. Now all of the vectors are good, but it's just this one has higher magazine size. The other ones they have a higher DPS. So on the third attribute in there, I also recommend damage to target out of cover, and on the talent I always run preservation on this vector. This is basically my fail-safe kind of weapon, where if I need to get my healing back, I use it on a lot of builds. I like using it, right? So killing an enemy repairs 10% of armor over 5 seconds, and headshot kills improves that repair by an additional 10%, which basically means a 20% armor repair over 5 seconds if you have a headshot kill. Now skills in here, this is specifically for legendaries. If you guys have watching me for a while, you know I use this setup right here for legendary. I do not use the ballistic shield for heroic content and below. I only use the preserved ballistic shield for legendaries because it helps me out, and the assault turret also as a decoy. I use the assault turret and also the actual decoy as a decoy, so that's what I use. For specialization, we have the gun specialization, my favorite specialization in the game, and because good reasons. So I have the talent that gives me 10% armor on kill. I have this talent that gives me every third reload is 50% faster. Also, let's not forget the 5% rate of fire increase for 5 seconds after a kill. That's basically DPS increase. It regenerates me 10% of my total ammo capacity every 60 seconds. And also, if you are in cover, there is a 10% weapon handling while not moving. So that's just adding to your build. So to finish this off, on my weapon stats for the St. Elmo's engine, we have 83,000 weapon damage per bullet, we have 58% crit chance, 137% crit damage, 75% headshot damage. There is a 10% damage to target out of cover in there that's not showing in here on the weapon stats. And for the defensive stats, we have 1.5 million armor. That's gonna give us a total of 154,000 armor on kill. It's not a lot, but it helps us out, and we only have 4,900 armor regeneration. That's because it's coming from that mask itself, but keep in mind we'll have more armor regeneration after we activated the mask. By taking damage, it will drop that cloud of healing on the floor, which should be a lot more than that, right? Now I don't recommend face tanking on the legendaries. Maybe on heroic you should be able to face tank. So yeah guys, that's the build for you guys. My first build that I use for the Catharsis mask. I never used this mask before on PvE, and the first build that I do with it, I go and try it on legendary and actually beat my personal record on capital building legendary solo. So that's just a cherry on top of the cake, right? So yeah, But let me know, have you guys used this mask before? Is it one of your favorite exotics? What you guys recommend for me to use it on what type of build? So any of that in the comment section below. If you guys enjoyed this video, a like on it would be super appreciated. Subscribe for more, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Take care, everybody.